We are shows what you know. We'll always watch TV. And if you think we can't, well, watch more and you'll see. That's why the people of the web believe in Jim from Las Vegas and Jacob from Sweden.
Welcome to Shows What You Know About Game of Thrones. Yes, the time has finally come. The wall has fallen. Well, that was years ago. But we're now marching south to the beat of our own drum, about to discuss episode 1 of season 8 of Game of Thrones. I'm excited, kind of, and my name is Jacob Burrows.
My name is Jim Scampoli, and I'm like a Walder Frey over here. I'm bitter with my Game of Thrones. I'm eating it up in a meat pie, but I'm ready to march on down to the end because here it is. It's the final season. Let's do the damn thing.
Let's do the damn thing indeed. Now, I want to give a bit of background on all of this stuff. Now, if you're a new listener to Shows What You Know that we have covered Game of Thrones in the past. You can find all of the coverage at showswhatyouknow.com. After you and I discussed the last seasons, I still had some niggling thoughts bouncing around, and I kept thinking and talking about it, and eventually I just went, well, whenever you can't stop thinking, you got to make a video essay. I think that's the rule. If you hang out on the internet, just thinking too much. So I made a video essay about Game of Thrones. It caught a little bit of traction, got some views on there, and so the weird thing is that everyone seems to think that I hated the season, which, I felt like there were some things that if you'd changed just some minor things, it could have been so much more amazing. That was kind of my whole point, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But although we're starting to see maybe some of the repercussions of some of the choices they made, specifically with the old burning of you burn a couple what was your quote? Burn a couple Tarleys, so what? Not quite so what, Jacob Burrows, as you watch the premiere episode of season 8.
See, this is why everyone who hated my video essay should listen to this and give me my comeuppance. Exactly. But in general, though, I'm excited to discuss this one. It is obviously coming down to the wire. It's 6 episodes. We're like 1/6 of the way through. We are discussing Winterfell, of course. It's the name of the episode. We were speculating before the mics turned on that presumably they're just going to name them different places because they haven't announced any of the other episode titles. That's presumably what they're doing, right, Jim?
I feel like, I guess I haven't paid attention in the past on if they kept the episode titles under wraps like it's seemingly they're doing this year. But it seems like that's where we're going. We're going to be picking up places as we head more south with the Army of the Dead. Or actually, you know what? Before we get into the episode, let's just talk about overall thoughts of where we think this is going. I mean, well, first thing, does it feel like 6 episodes is going to be maybe not enough to get to a satisfying conclusion?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's been the feeling since forever. Like, it doesn't sound like it's going to be enough. They might prove that wrong, maybe, if, each of them are, they're so long, even though this one's so short. If the rest of them are really long, maybe. But then I feel like whenever they make a long episode in Game of Thrones, it's not like they shove in more story necessarily. There's some exceptions, but usually it's like, we have a long episode because there's a long-ass battle, but that doesn't mean that there's loads of scenes, loads of turning points. It just means we want big epic shit, and I'm sure that they want big epic shit in this season, so that's why they have done it that way, partly. Is it going to be enough? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I guess it kind of hinders on the whole thing of like, do you think they're going to wrap up this Night King stuff in the beginning and then we'll deal with the fallout, or is that going to be something throughout the whole of the 6 episodes?
I think it's going to be throughout. I actually kind of can't help but think that maybe they'll do the thing. We've been saying like, winter's coming for years, and we've been so excited about the White Walkers, and then maybe we're not going to see them for like 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah. Well, it does feel like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
Going back to your running time thing, because episode 3 is supposed to be like the longest one of the season and maybe one of the longest of the series. And it feels like that has to be obviously a big battle episode. and maybe like things are obviously coming to a head there with the army of the dead. But I mean, me personally, I'm kind of more interested in that right now. Like, I get the political intrigue and Cersei and all that, but also it's like, I've had 7 seasons of all that. The political intrigue, like I want to see what's the what's going on with this Night King, what's going on with these zombies. Let's see a battle here.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Maybe 3 would be a big battle. I mean, especially with the director of that one. I will mention this episode is directed by David Nutter, who directs fully half the episodes of the season, and written by Dave Hill. But episode 3 is directed by Miguel Sapochnik. I think that's maybe how you say its name. And I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I mean, he did do Battle of the Bastards. Like, not that that's a promise or anything, but if it's one of the longest episodes and they got him back, seems likely. Maybe that's the Fall of Winterfell, something like that.
Yeah, it feels like that's what it would be. But and then I guess the other thing here, how about this flashy new title intro sequence, huh?
Dude, with all my jaded everything, when this started playing, I was so hyped. It's such a simple thing to do, but I was like, oh, I was like grinning. What did you think?
No, I thought it was cool. Now, do you think this is due to, I mean, I guess going back to our speculation on the titles, because I mean, the intro song and the credits and everything is long as is. But when you don't have all these locations to jump around to, because now that people are getting into more, like people are all joining up at the same location, so you have less locations. So it's almost like you got to stretch it out. So now it's like, well, Winterfell. Well, let's go inside Winterfell, huh? Let's go through here. Let's swoop through the hallways. Now, I assume it'll be in Game of Thrones fashion. Maybe we'll see some changes to that, as if we do go to some other places. But yeah, I was excited. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, 2 thoughts on that. It's interesting we start north of the wall and go through the whole. Like, it is like we're seeing the progression of, the army, the Ice Army heading south, because we were going like Hearth and then Winterfell and then King's Landing, and it's just 3 locations. I don't know that I've ever seen an intro with 3 locations. Even when they spent the whole episode in one location, they just show the rest of it.
Very true.
But I think you're totally right about that, and about the fact that we can't be that excited about intrigue right now, because there's like a lot of people are on the same side right now. I mean, yeah, there's going to be intrigue. Like, they're not going to love Jaime Lannister necessarily, this next episode. But it's basically like, yeah, we got Winterfell and we got King's Landing. This is where everyone is. They're like, we can't bounce back and forth between them. So yeah, we got to go inside. But that also means the intrigue isn't going to be that exciting. We know Cersei's, a backstabber, so she's going to stab backs, obviously. But like, what else is there? Are people going to join Cersei's side? I don't know. Just the people we expect to. I don't see like... well, we can get into it. I was going to say, people have this theory about Tyrion, making a secret alliance in that with Cersei. Yeah. I don't know. He's made a not secret alliance with Cersei, so... but we're all over the place right now.
Well, I mean, they kind of they set us up that with the finale last year, because anytime you cut away and like the conversation continues, it's gonna be like because and you never trust a Lannister, even if you love Tyrion so much. You never trust a Lannister. That's my opinion. And then one other thing before we get into the episode. Shit, I lost my thought for a second. But what was
Winter's coming?
Well, Winter's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I remember now. Okay, sorry. I had a momentary lapse of thought there. But now, going kind of tying into with your video, and also not just your video, but criticisms of Game of Thrones in general, is one of the reasons why people get pulled into Game of Thrones, especially if they're not typically into like high fantasy and dragons and all that, was partially the political intrigue, and of course, like the subverting your expectations and what you expect in a story. But since we're winding down and coming to an end, whether it be just the show and your thoughts on D&D, the showrunners, or just George R.R. Martin in general, doesn't it also feel like even the books, things are going to have to settle down and come to a more traditional conclusion? would people be? I know people want that subversion, but would they also be unhappy if they got that in an ending?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I think's been lobbied at the video I made as well, because I talked a lot about the difference between a story that's focused on character and motivations driving everything forward, or just deciding like, oh, plot, we want this type of plot. How do we make that happen, and how does it make sense with the characters? And obviously all stories include both of that. But Game of Thrones, it's always felt like it's been more like, well, this character would make a mistake here, so it would go south for them. Now, there's no clear line between those categories, but I believe you can still have something that feels epic, but that is driven on that same sort of scale. Like, you're right, though. I mean, we've been promised giant battles and stuff. Like even from the books, from the prologue, we've been promised like this is gonna get epic, guys. So if it's not gonna get like when things get epic, we are more likely to tread into traditional territory. But I feel like you can still do that and do unexpected things. I think that's the real question. Like, they don't need to subvert everything. Like, it doesn't have to be the bleakest thing ever. In fact, it could be like a happy ending, gray ending, whatever they want. You just need to do something unexpected, because that's kind of where the last season didn't feel right in a couple of ways, where it's like, okay, so this is happening because this is what feels like it should happen, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that makes complete sense. It reminds me a little bit of Breaking Bad, where I feel like Breaking Bad has a great ending, a great finale, but then there's a lot of people complaining of like, well, I knew that was going to happen or something. I won't get into specifics, but Breaking Bad comes to somewhat of a natural conclusion, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just weird where I think people do expect Game of Thrones because of things like, Ned Stark and the Red Wedding, and you get that feeling of excitement of like, oh my God, I didn't know this was going to happen. But sometimes that leaves you then with, season 5 and season 6 of some characters you don't care too much about sometimes, and just hanging out for a long time. That's just my own opinion. That's one man's opinion.
Yeah. And as
So-
Natasha says in the chat, no matter what, some people will be unhappy with the ending, which is so true.
Very true.
I mean, that's always true, but when it's something that's as big as this, it's very clear that there are people into it who expect and want different things. So I hope that they, despite my criticisms, I hope they did exactly what they wanted to do with the ending. Like, because after last season, I was like, man, you should have done this, like do this, man. But like, I know they don't pay a lot of attention to like things online, obviously, but it has felt like in the past that they've sort of gone the way, like that they've been a bit reactionary to what people have done with, like, say the Sand Snakes just murdering them brutally because everyone disliked their whole storyline, kind of, and it was kind of them just going, all right, let's get those pieces off the board real quick. I do hope they've done exactly what they wanted, whether it works or not.
Yeah, I agree with that. But anyways, okay. I mean, and overall thoughts on the episode. I mean, we should say as we get into the discussion of the episode, we will just spoil the episode. But overall thoughts on the episode. It's not like, I mean, I'm excited. Game of Thrones back. Game of Thrones is back. It's obviously not like this crazy wow of an episode, but it's a premiere. It just feels very in line with a good Game of Thrones premiere. We're kind of getting everyone back on the same page. Things are getting in position to set up for the season. So yeah, very, very good. Not amazing, not bad by any means.
Yeah, I mean, that's the summary of it. No one, I think, expected this to. I mean, if someone expected a huge battle in the first episode, I mean, they could have kind of done that if they wanted to, but that would not be super Game of Thrones either. It's always been like putting the pieces in position before you start wrecking shit, which is, part of the fun. You got to build up to it, otherwise what you doing? And especially because there's so many reunions to do, I think they handle it fairly well, getting characters back together without it feeling too like overwhelming, because it's like literally everyone meeting again. They managed to do it fairly well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to get down to it? Although, actually, someone in the chat Did you guys notice in the intro where it first shows the Night King destroying the Way, the Red Wedding, Daenerys' dragons, the comet going back in time? I didn't notice that. I don't know what that means.
Oh yeah, I mean I saw on the. I guess you're talking about the rings around the sun or whatever, where it's showing like the heraldic history of Westeros, and I did glimpse those. I didn't like look into it and think too much about it, to be honest. If I understand that comment right, but I just saw it as another step towards this is history in the making that we're watching. That's always been the feeling of Game of Thrones, but now it's like these are the legends people will look back on and such, rather than any special significance.
And if I could correct you, I believe you mean the astrolabe.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Great. Perfect. Yeah, so I also wanted to mention this is maybe doesn't make a difference, but you have very recently rewatched every single episode of Game of Thrones, am I right?
Yes, I did. I started, I checked in my Tracked. You can follow me on Tracked.tv, by the way. I'm Jim Darko on Tracked.
Track.tv/Jim Darko?
Let me see. Track.tv/user/Jim Darko. They make it easy.
Great.
But yeah, I checked I started it February 27th and then finished it up like basically right before the premiere. So yeah, I got a nice fresh rewatch, and that's good for me because I didn't really rewatch Game of Thrones a lot throughout all the years. So
yeah,
every season it was kind of like, wait a minute, who's that guy again? wait, who's that guy? And when watching it in a row, you do start to appreciate, and I'm sure I'm not telling anyone if they're Game of Thrones fans anything new here, the callbacks, the characters, the way things come up. But when you just watch it live week to week, you miss so many things.
yeah.
But also, I mean, I've kind of hinted at it before. I do feel like there's some slogs in there, if I could be so bold to kind of criticize Game of Thrones, that I feel like the show peaks at season 4. Like everything really comes together of like the previous 3 seasons. Things start to really get in place, and it almost feels like you could just march right into the last season after that. And then we get kind of bogged down by, to me, things that are kind of boring and stupid, between like Arya becoming a no one and
the High Sparrow.
Yeah, because those things are basically 2 seasons worth of that shit, and then they just blow it up, and then Arya goes blind, and then she's not blind, and you've seen it, you were there for it.
Yeah, I remember it. Well, you know what I was doing since February while you were watching that?
Yeah, what's that?
Just living my life. Yeah.
You beat me.
Out and about, new experiences, living my best life. Those were 80 hours. I have no idea actually how many hours that would be. I'm sure you could check on track.tv/user/Jim of them, but yeah, no, I haven't rewatched it. Because I think I have rewatched it a fair bit, between the seasons in general, so I feel like I have an okay grasp of what's going on. But I also kind of felt like after the last season, I spent so much time rewatching and working on it that I was like, I'm done with this now. And it's funny because when the video got popular and people have been commenting things and like, oh, they have really strong opinions. And I'm like, I don't even have that much of an opinion because I put it all in this video and now it's out in the world. I'm kind of chill about it. So, yes. So that was me entering into this episode. I don't have the highest expectations ever, but that also helps me go kind of like, oh, cool. Dragons.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's the other thing. Like, I love, and I'm sure this has been pointed out before, but I love how epic and, action-y and, great it gets as the show got more popular and they got more money. But I know a lot of people probably point out that then it's missing what they think they loved about the show. But to be fair, what they loved about the show is that it was, an edgelord Lord of the Rings. Like, it's just like some of the, like, rewatching it, some of the like sex and nudity, and I'm not a prude or anything, but it's just kind of like, all right, we get it. You can show vaginas and dicks and tits, and like it's kind of annoying. It gets annoying at a certain point.
Am I right in that thinking that kind of got faded out a little bit towards the later seasons, or is that just me imagining it, like remembering wrong? Like there was a lot of it early on, right? Or what do you think?
I think you're right, because nothing gets it reaches its peak, which I think it's still in season 1 when it's like Baelish is teaching them,
yes, and Littlefinger just talking, and there's just sex going on. Of course there is.
You make a man feel like a king, and then you bring out his desires. Like, oh,
And a king feel like a man.
yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, okay. And also, again, just before we get into it from the chat, it was clarified that it was indeed the. What was it called, Jim? The
Oh,
sun thing?
the astrolabe.
Yeah, exactly, that thing. So the rings and that. In the original intro, it goes forward in time, and he pointed out that it goes backs in time. Natasha commented that, figured that was a nod to Bran and his, thoughts going back in time, whatever.
That's a great call out.
Yeah.
That's a good notice. I did not pick that up.
Yeah. So let's get into the episode. It starts with a lad running through the snow in Winterfell, trying to get a peek at these soldiers coming through. We see Arya standing there as well. This is supposed to be like, remembering episode 1 of the show where Arya is trying to look at the army coming in, but now she's the one standing there. And we see the Dothraki marching into Winterfell, which in itself is cool, I think, kind of.
I agree. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's the nice. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Stop. Not yet, Jim. It's the first wicked scene. Yeah, sure.
But it is. I mean, and not just Arya, but also, I mean, Bran is doing that, climbing around, like trying to get a view of King Baratheon in the pilot, and marching in with his army. And yeah, it's like. And things have changed so much, but the more they change, they stay the same. Things are getting more real, but it's, it's a cool scene. Nice way to start things off.
Yeah. It's very simple stuff, but it will still kind of hit you that, I mean, it's the most obvious thing ever, but Jon Snow was a bastard, and now he is, or well, he's kind of given it up, but he's riding there, he's practically the king in the north, and he's riding in with his princess, like, what the fuck? They were both at the bottom of the heap, in season 1, so we get to all that laid out as the hounds riding in there as well, and Gendry, all sorts of people. Now, then,
well, I was just gonna say there's some small like little racial undertones I feel like they hint at, which is, it's kind of smart because it's like you got these pale ass white people from the north, and they're kind of giving sideways glances to Miss Enmy. What's her name?
Yeah,
and Grey Worm, because and also, I mean, just going into the Unsullied army, it's you got some people from the south. A little different color. They don't. I'm not. Obviously, it's not a big thing, but I feel like there's small little nods with the scenes and kind of the looks.
Yeah, and I mean they get into it. The fact that Northerners are not very welcoming to people from the outside. I don't think they care much what color your skin is. If you're not from around here, you're not from around here.
That's true.
So I think there was betting online. I think there's betting online for everything, but on who would have the first line. And I think Tyrion had pretty good odds because Tyrion likes to narrate and stuff. And yeah, his first line is, "You should consider yourself lucky." When he's talking to Varys, at least your balls won't freeze off. And at this point, I'm like, okay, this does it have to? At least Varys responds with, "Why do you always, shitting on me for being a eunuch when you hate dwarf jokes?" And he says, "Because I have balls and you don't." And I'm like, what's going on with this dialogue? I've seen this before, and I've complained about it ad nauseum. The Tyrion's supposed to be this really smart, cool character, and he has the shittest jokes ever, and they never end. And I don't think anyone thinks it's funny watching unless you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and I recently watched your video before actually, after I finished my rewatch, I did rewatch your video, and then before the premiere. And you do, you talk about how like his jokes have gotten worse, like without the books, and it was such a perfect example of that because it's so eye rolly. I mean, I guess maybe it was this. I mean, obviously, I'm just guessing here, but it feels like, like in the chat they're saying attention breaker, but also, in the writers' room where they're probably like, fuck, we got to start our final season. Let's not make it this big thing. Let's make it a stupid thing and lower the expectations, and let's get on with it. Let's move past it.
I suppose. But like episode 1, if we're paralleling with that, that's when he's in Winterfell talking about like never let other people do something in who you are. It was a long time since I watched it. Yes, let it become your what the fuck does he say? Something about it's gonna become your armor, and that way it can never be used to hurt you. Like, great
Because
lines.
never forget who you are, because like the world won't let you
Yeah.
forget it, or the world won't forget.
I used to know this off by heart. It's a
Yeah.
good quote. And this is like he's always been the most quote worthy character, but that hasn't quite been the case this previous season. And this intro makes me feel like, okay, so he's not gonna be that again. I guess that's fine. I still like Tyrion.
I mean, yeah, Tyrion in general, like especially on my rewatch, they really they break him down. Like it really is feels like they're on a mission to make him shittier. Because I mean,
Yeah.
season 7 is like a character assassination. Everything he does, I guess, to be fair, and maybe this is partially because of Peter Dinklage, because he's so great in the part and he can carry it so well. When he is saying his plans in season 7, it all makes sense, and you're like, I get it, I believe him. Like, but then when they show that it fails, like at every turn, it's kind of like, oh
Yeah.
man, fuck.
Yeah, this is stupid. So the dragons arrive as well. That's kind of
Yeah.
a big deal,
Yeah.
Brought back dragons and that. They ride into the courtyard, which of course parallels again episode 1. And we have some reunions there where Jon gets to meet up with Bran, who stays in the courtyard for the remainder of the episode, which I laughed at every time when someone runs into the courtyard and Bran is still there looking at him. I was like, did no one wheel Bran away? Like, did no one help him with this? Has he been there for days?
The brand thing's really tough as well. Like what they're doing with him. I get why they have to do it, but it does feel like there'd be a better way to do this. And I get that like Jon reacts a little weird, but it's maybe it's because I'm so used to him being weirder that I'm like, that's not that weird, Jon. Like you're not even. Because well, okay, what did you say? Look at you. You're a man, and then he says almost, and then Jon's like, huh? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, dude, you ain't seen nothing.
Yeah, that's not even that we're strange. So we get introductions all around. Daenerys being polite to Sansa, Sansa being sneery to Daenerys. Clearly they don't like each other, but she says Winterfell is yours because she follows Jon, even though she doesn't like it. But anyway, Bran pops the tension real quick, like, oh, we don't have time for this. There's a fucking dragon. Come on. But he says it in his Bran way.
But he's absolutely right. And I get this has always been a part of Game of Thrones, and it does mimic the real world in a lot of ways, that people get caught up in their personal bullshit, even when there's a real threat. But at this point, I have to be like, come on, people of the North. Are you serious? Are we still worried about the North and trusting Southerners when... I mean, I guess to be fair, these people still haven't seen the Army of the Dead, but aren't the Northerners still supposed to be like more superstitious and kind of on board with this stuff? Winter is coming, but then I guess winter, because to me for the longest time I was like, oh yeah, winter is coming. That means they know the zombies are coming, but no, they just mean winter.
All along. Yeah, it was just a fun saying they had. Also, is this where Jon and Daenerys find out that the wall has fallen? Because I would kind of assume so, maybe. Although they have brought the whole army, like, how would that information be relayed to them otherwise? But they're not, like, I don't know, their expression doesn't indicate that this is where they find out. Also, they have no way otherwise of knowing that the Night King has a dragon unless they know that the wall has fallen.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is where they find out, kind of.
Yeah, I think so. But also, yeah, that's another great point, is that the wall has fallen. So are we still concerned that, Jon maybe bent the knee? The wall's been up for thousands of years, from what I'm told by the Northerners all the time. Yeah. So it feels like, oh wow, shit's getting real. I get maybe the worshiping a king in the South, but come on, at this point when the wall's fallen, like let's get down to business.
Yeah, we can patch it up, patch her on up. Come on. I know, but I guess they haven't seen the dragons. Whatever. I expect and believe that this will just simply be washed away when episode 3. I think Army of the Dead, Winterfell, everything's fucked, and we can hopefully get rid of this nonsense. But then they're going to go further south, and then the people further south are going to go, what are you talking about? There's no dragon. Like, that's not going to happen. But yeah, there's a council meeting anyway. There's some tension about the fact that he gave up the crown, like we were talking about. But basically, the people do what what John says. You know, go get your stuff, get your
Yeah,
shit.
Lord Umber.
Yeah.
They do funny little kind of sight gag like Lord Umber, and the little kid like pokes his head out, and
Yeah.
they love playing around with the little like the idea that little kids are sometimes lords because everyone else dies,
Yes.
and they kind of have to take on that responsibility. But yeah, it was hard for me to really get into. I get this has always been a part of Game of Thrones, and it does hold true in respects to just real life that people do get caught up in this shit, but it just feels like, oh my god, come on, the wall has fallen, the Night King has a dragon, let's get all the houses together.
Yeah, and Tyrion steps up and does a little speech about all this. Like, come on, let's get all the houses together. Let's chill out, everyone. Jon Snow brought a dragon or two, even. So, but then it's like, why does like everyone's talking about how Jon's a big. I don't say this lightly, but they're talking about how he's a big cuck, basically, and he's like gave away his crown and everything, and he lets the dwarf who like I think everyone in the north kind of hates for various reasons. He's the one standing there saying how Jon is great, and Jon's just sitting there like, can't he do a rousing speech at this point? Wouldn't that be appropriate? And I mean, even Sansa's not on his side. She does have a great point, like, how are we going to feed these people? Which is something that's good to see, some logistics being brought back into Game of Thrones, because it's been, you know, very much up in the air. But it would be a big issue if you have, like, the greatest army ever and dragons, and everyone's got to eat, and we didn't have enough food to begin with.
Yeah, that does make sense. The whole thing with Sansa in general, like, I don't quite buy it. And I get the whole thing is that, you know, everyone's gone through what they've gone through these past, you know, 7 seasons going into season 8, and Sansa spent almost all of that time behind enemy lines, so it does make sense that she would kind of understand them better. But it's still, I don't know, I don't buy that she's the most cleverest person and she understands everyone's next move, and especially a big sticking point because based off the rewatch, which she did in the Battle of the Bastards. So like, put Jon in his place by letting all these people die and not telling him that the Knights of the Vale might come. Just being like, no, just wait. Okay, but why?
Yeah.
Okay, Sansa, give me a reason. Give me a reason to wait. And she just like looks at him and not saying like, well, I did, you know, talk to Baelish. And I get maybe Jon would be like, you can't trust Littlefinger or whatever. I know this is old shit I'm focusing on, but this is supposed to all play into who Sansa is now. And I feel like her more than any of the other Starks, and I'm still counting Jon as a Stark because he was raised and grew up there, and you know I'll even count Theon. I buy everyone else's change and growth. I get Sansa's change and growth, but they haven't played it out as well as they could have.
Yeah, and I mean, in addition to that, with Littlefinger last season, that all played out really weird. Like, if they had done a better job of showing that she actually outmaneuvered Littlefinger, that would have been cool, because then it's like, I become the master now. The student becomes the master. But instead, it kind of felt like, well, Bran was there, and, you know, he saw you murder our dad, basically, so, like, let's get rid of you. And the whole thing didn't make a lot of sense. Something I didn't touch on in my video, because it's a whole big thing that I don't even know how we would fix it, but it wasn't a great moment of, like, Sansa is the shit now. And I have also not forgotten about the Battle of the Bastards, which that part is one of those bits that I just ignored. There are some bits where I just ignore it, and it makes perfect sense in my head if I leave it out totally and say that she never wrote the letter. Baelish just came on his own. Let's go with that.
Yeah. And we have... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what you were saying about like the letters and that, it doesn't match up with what someone says in this episode, that Sansa's like the most brilliant person in the world. I don't remember who says it, but yeah.
Well, yeah, because then we get a quick shot of like Gendry and the Dragon Glass. They're starting to build some weapons, getting ready for the war. And then Sansa's with the Lord of the... Well, he's not the Lord of the Vale, that guy from the Vale. And we get a nice scene with Tyrion and Sansa here. And that's kind of where we get into, because she's like, I thought you were so clever, but, you know, you're dumb. And, you know, we all kind of do know Tyrion's dumb now because he does dumb things all the time. So
yeah, but so do you, Sansa, so... Yeah, but it isn't. I mean, I was excited to see them together just because it's like, oh yeah, you guys were married. It's been a lot of years, but yeah, you had a weird relationship there. And they get to talk through some of that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a nice reunion, and it is a good reminder that she does understand that he did the best he could by her, at least like in that whole situation that was going on.
Uh huh. And I mean, this is also where she brings up you believe like she is smarter than him in this sense that she's
Yeah,
like you actually believe that Cersei would do the thing, and he's like, oh, she has something to live for now because she's supposedly pregnant and such. No one in the world believes that. It's just another way to show how stupid Tyrion is. I think this is almost solely the reason people think there's a conspiracy between the two of them because they don't think he would be this stupid. But I
yeah.
genuinely think he would be with how they're writing him. So
And
yeah,
I guess part of it is it should be said like the whole thing, especially with last season, and I think Daenerys pointed this out that even though he doesn't hate Jamie. He kind of hates Cersei because, of course, she tried to have him killed, but it's still his sister. And I mean, he
yeah,
killed his father, but it was mostly about him, still trying to save his family. Like
yeah.
it was the polite conquering, and then there's still that happening here. And that's true for like all the characters on Game of Thrones to an extent, is they are at least somewhat blinded by their family, even when their family's shitty.
Yeah, no, that's true. And at the end of the scene, we get the first of many shots of Bran still sitting in the same place looking at Tyrion. We should have a tally for this, but
Yeah.
yes. So then we go to the God's Wood, I believe it's called, with John hanging out looking at this bleeding face, which in the show, we never really got into the faces. There's no way to spoil a book thing now. So in the books, like Bran is basically looking through these faces and seeing things when he's up in the north, so that's
Oh,
part
okay.
of their whole religion thing. Now it's just a bleedy face. But we get a reunion now with Arya and John. What did
Which
you
is
think of this
great.
scene?
Ah, it's
Yeah,
really great. And then
yeah,
then she still has Needle, and they get to call that out. It's like there's some awesome stuff here. But yeah, I mean, yeah, someone did point out in the chat that yeah, Arya is the one that says that Sansa's the most clever person she knows or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, because John is like, oh, Sansa thinks she's smarter than everyone. Like, try to conspire with the sibling thing that they always had, because he never really got on with Sansa before. But Arya's like, she's the smartest person I've ever met. Which they hung out like since season one. They've seen each other last season, so the whole Littlefinger thing. I guess that's the basis for Arya's statement. I don't know. I mean, I guess she's mainly hung out with faceless men and like actors and stuff. She wouldn't have the widest experience. So maybe she's right. I don't know.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, it shows not that Arya doubts John, but yeah, she does kind of point out like just remember she's like looking out for her family, like you should do that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like, but what do you think he's doing? Like
Yeah.
that's what he's doing. And I
Mm-hmm.
get like part of it is the whole thing that John has the danger of being like Ned Stark, where you're almost too virtuous and you're too much the hero, and that could spell your demise.
Yeah.
So I get that. But yeah, it just that quite doesn't ring true with some of the doubts they have for him,
Yeah.
especially when Sansa does it in front of everyone.
Yeah. It's so annoying. It was on last season as well, where it's like, let me just publicly undermine you all the time. This will help your standing. Yeah, I was just gonna say that even if he was a sneaky guy, he could just do this alliance now and then stab Daenerys in the back. I mean, obviously everyone knows he wouldn't, but like the right choice in this situation is not to like, oh, I want to fight the dragons instead. Like, let's fight the fire dragons and the ice dragon. That'll work. Like, that's not a good decision either. So bend the knee. You can always rebel later. Not that he
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, not that he wouldn't. I mean, because I mean, again, going back to last season, that was his whole thing. He wouldn't just lie for a second to Cersei. He had to,
Oh
uphold his
God.
word.
Yeah. That's right.
Then we have what are these mercenaries that are hired?
The Golden Company. Yeah.
Yes.
So it was, yeah, they've been brought over now without the elephants, unfortunately. But yeah, Cersei's there watching over. We get to see the boats and that. We get to see Yara, as she's called in the show, all tied up. And this scene where she's tied up and what's his name? This guy, this
Euron.
fuck
Is it
Euron.
Euron?
Yeah, Euron's there, and this scene is kind of shit. Like he's such a weird character. It's hard to like tell if he's really really bad or as a character. I mean, as an actor, or if it's just I don't know. What do you like? This scene is basically him just saying he's gonna fuck the queen, which is fair enough. I didn't see the
Yeah.
point of the scene until Yara got freed later. I was like, okay, we had to see where she was so she could get freed.
Well, yeah, and it has to. It gets wrapped up rather quickly, which I
Yeah.
guess is fine. I don't want to spend too much time on it, anyways. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's a hint of the old rush, like how they have to kind of rush through some of this stuff to get to it. I have read a crazy theory. I mean, I guess it's not even like that much of a theory. It's just an old friend of mine, Brandon Cheney, used to host the show with me, my Jim and Them show. But he tweeted about how the Golden Company, is that who they are?
Yes.
This other guy that he's like brought back is what this my friend of mine's theory is that that's Jaqen Hagar or whatever, the faceless man, like secretly
Well,
coming
I
in,
mean,
and it's gonna somehow be tied to like Dario, and like Dario is gonna come, like this is all a plot to help Daenerys and turn on Cersei. You know, like, oh Jesus, wow, what do people get out of this show sometimes?
yeah, well, I'm sure Sirio Farrell would show up as well with his fencing sword there as well, like not today, and like well, or today, and stab Cersei. Actually, that doesn't sound like it is. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but I wouldn't put that past them
Yeah,
because that's one of those characters that in the world of the TV show they would think it would be kind of cool to have him pop up again, if only to do like a cool kill sometime. And then I mean, my theory with Arya, or my hope with Arya, because she never had to pay for all her powers, I really hope she doesn't get to be Arya Stark at the end. I hope she has to become a faceless man at the
yeah.
end of the show to sort of pay for getting to go off on her little vacation, like to save the world, and then she can become a faceless man because she has to pay for these fucking powers. That's my opinion. And that would make sense if he were to come and like kill someone who's, and then bring her back. So I wouldn't actually put it past them. I mean, this is a non-character, this guy, so it would kind of make sense.
Yeah, and then Natasha in the chat, Dario being in the Golden Company did cross her mind. It does kind of almost seem like something they would do too, because then maybe you have like, never mind all the other obstacles now with Jon and Daenerys, but then also throw in an old fling, and then you got a love triangle. But then again, we only got 5 more episodes, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I don't think they'll bother with the love triangle at this point. I think the love triangle is between them and the fact that they're very much related. I think that's the third part of the triangle. I
Now,
do kind of. Oh,
well,
go ahead.
sorry, real quick, is the elephant thing like an in joke from the books, or it's just this thing they thought was kind of funny that she just keep bringing it up?
I thought it was okay. Like it is in the books. They have elephants, I guess, but
Yeah.
like it's not that important. It is like I feel like if they hit it one time less, it would have worked better because it's like I feel like they bring it up one time too many. It does work. I think besides that, but yeah, they hit it a bit hard.
Yeah. So yeah, because Cersei's talking about the elephants, and then of course we have this thing where I mean, Euron's thing has been that he's gonna fuck the queen. Initially, he was gonna fuck Daenerys, but now he's gonna fuck Cersei. So finally he does get his a character arc, I guess.
Well, can I say something though? I kind of like this scene where
Oh
he's
yeah.
like begging to fuck her, kind of, but like being his sneaky dickhead self, and the whole scene of her walking away and then turning back, like, come on, then. Like, I don't know why, but I like the way it played out.
Yeah, I mean, because it plays out in a weird way of like a pickup artist nagging a girl and then it working, but then also she has ulterior motives because clearly, I guess if she is pregnant, because I doubted it from the beginning, but if she is, this is a perfect cover for whose child this is. Even though she was bringing up before that it didn't matter anymore, like when she did sleep with Jamie before and he wanted to hide, and she's like, "We don't hide anymore, I'm the queen." So I don't know. I feel like her angle probably would be to explain away this child is Euron's kid, I guess, right?
Huh. Maybe I didn't even think of that. I just thought, Cersei gonna get some.
Yeah.
She won't some, and she gonna get some.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Quick scene with Bronn and three prostitutes. They're having some talk here about some kid that died or whatever. And is this Ed Sheeran? Like someone told me they're talking about Ed Sheeran.
Wow, I didn't even think of that. I guess that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I don't think it is, but I'm not sure if that's what it is. Let us know in the chat if that's what it is. I didn't look into it, but they say, oh, well, they say that boy Eddie, the ginger, came back with his face burnt right off. That might be. He's
It's
got no
gotta
eyelids now. How does he sleep with no eyelids? And okay, cool. So Qyburn comes in and gives Bronn a mission: go kill the Lannister brothers. Is he gonna do it, Jim?
He can't, right? No. I mean, I know this is Braun's whole thing, but this is the point, right? This is the point of Braun is that technically he has allegiance to no one except, the almighty dollar and himself. But, now we see that he does care about at least his buddies, his good old, his two partners in crime that he's had. But maybe, again, that's the whole bittersweet thing of like, hey, what do you expect? I'm Scorpion, you're a frog. So I'll do whatever.
Yeah, but the thing I've always said is that he not only decides to fight a dragon, like he also, instead of running away, like he could have run away from the battle and been fine. He decides to try to kill the dragon, and then when Jaime's riding towards it, he decides to also ride towards the dragon who's about to breathe fire to save Jaime. And because he has superpowers, that's not a big deal. But in any type of reasonable way of thinking, he is risking his life to save Jaime. The argument might be, oh, he'll get a bigger paycheck or whatever. He's his meal ticket. That's what he says. But I don't buy it at all because he's acting heroically in those moments. He's acting against his character, which was my whole argument on why, if he's going to do that shit, he should also die because he's acting against everything that he said he stands for. So here, when it's like, oh, is he going to kill the Lannisters? For me, it's not even a question. He's already gone over to like that side of things. And he's already shown that he doesn't care who he conspires with because he brought Tyrion and Jaime together for a little tete-a-tete in like the dungeons of the Red Keep because he wanted them to make a deal, and it kind of helps him out if they get along. And he knows that Cersei's crazy because the whole realm knows that, and that Jaime and Tyrion actually do keep their word. And Qyburn says that, oh yeah, she elevated me and you can be elevated as well. But he's got to know that Cersei's most likely not on the winning side. Anyway, none of that matters because I don't think he would do it. If he does, that might be one of the unexpected things of this season.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the only reason why he may do it is because I don't think anyone buys that he would do it.
Yeah. Good point.
And then I guess I forgot about this, but I think it might have been Natasha who mentioned it. That what the actor that plays Bronn and the actress that plays Cersei kind of don't have scenes together because they have like a real world like hatred because they were in a relationship or something.
Yeah, so that's why Qyburn gives the mission and not Cersei. So yeah, also from the chat, Cersei refused the wine in season 7. Then she's drinking wine in this episode after sex with Euron. I think she was playing with Tyrion with the baby, and since lying about that because she knows Tyrion cares about family. Natasha also says that she's not pregnant. Yeah, maybe so, but also like they drink in Mad Men when they're pregnant, so this doesn't prove anything to me. This is chronologically before Mad Men, clearly.
Yeah, and I mean she also was using that against Jaime as well. The pregnancy anyway. So yeah, the thing with the pregnancy, it's similar to Bronn, where like I never bought it either, but the only reason why I think maybe it could be true is because I feel like no one's buying it, so that would be their weird twist. Is like, no, actually, liar Cersei actually is pregnant, but yeah, I don't think she is either.
Yeah. So Yara gets saved by Theon. It's a quick scene, like you said, but I don't really mind that. It's one of those things that it was more important that he was able to get the men on his side to go and save her than the actual rescue. Especially given how empty things are in King's Landing, it just feels kind of natural that he bursts in and like then the next scene they're sailing to the Iron Islands and he says he wants to go fight with the Starks and that, and she lets him because she's his queen and such.
And the one thing I would like to point out too, especially on my rewatch, is that the Theon Greyjoy character, like, obviously he's had some ups and downs with, especially like when he feels like he was being tortured for years, and which he was, but it seemed like it just kind of got boring to a point. But the actor, I feel like he's really underrated. Like he really fucking kills this part, and even on some of the shakier stuff they have him do, he destroys. He's great.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And yeah, so I also really enjoyed seeing him reunite with John last season.
Yeah.
And yeah, I expect cool stuff from this whole thing. We get a quick scene in the north now again with the Thinkers, the old men of the crew, the Onion Knight, and Varys and Theon throwing around their theories on what they're gonna do. They're like, well, let's get John and Daenerys hitched, get them married, king and a queen. What's the problem? And they're kind of like, oh, they would. Someone says they would never go for that. Is it Tyrion, or I don't know? But like, they're clearly fucking. So
Yeah.
why would this not work? I mean, we
Yeah.
know why, but why would it not work in their opinion?
Well, I mean, what do they say? Yeah, John and Daenerys don't want to listen to lonely old men. Or I think Varys says that, and then Tyrion says, "I'm not that old." I don't know. Yeah, it feels. I mean, I guess I don't remember him saying no, but then they're watching them and being all weird, and they're like they make a handsome couple. Uh, it does feel like the obvious thing. So I don't know. It all makes sense. I don't see the reasons against it. But then we get into like the whole thing with John and Daenerys. In this episode, it's like too cutesy, and I guess that's
Yeah.
probably the point because this is kind of like things are about to come to a head.
Yeah.
So you have to like say a lot with a little time you have.
Yeah, I suppose, but like in fucking How to Train Your Dragon, when they fly off on a dragon, it's like a great scene, and there's a turning point, and something happens. And here, it's really like this is the most fan fiction part of like, what if John and Danny got like on a dragon and flew off and had sex in front of a waterfall? Like that's what it is,
Well,
and it does make sense though. It's gonna be ripped apart, whatever. But yeah,
well, because even with Daenerys, like every time they cut to her, she's doing these cutesy smiles at John all the time, and it doesn't feel as real for some reason. Because like earlier, she's like giving side eyes and staring down Sansa. I guess that's every relationship when you meet the old in-laws or something. But yeah, it's a bit much. And then also, it feels like it should be more. It feels like it should be a bigger moment and more epic when someone else rides a dragon.
Yeah,
Than
I
just
was thinking that as well because obviously we know he's a Targaryen, he can ride a dragon or whatever, but like she's kind of like, yeah, well, you can't knock it till you try it or whatever, let's go. And it was such a cool scene last season when he like barely touched a dragon, and now it's like, well, better start. Hey, it's the last season, get on that shit.
And even I think like if she wasn't just kind of like hop on, like let's go. I mean, I guess technically a bunch of people rode that one dragon when Daenerys saved them, but I don't feel like it's quite the same.
No,
so
because she was on the dragon as well.
It feels like she should react a little bit different, like almost surprised that the dragon would let him ride. Like it feels like there should be more there.
Well, here's how it should have gone, and I'm gonna, fix it on the fly. This is the chicka chicka fix on the fly section, where I'm gonna be annoying and say what I think should have happened. What about this whole idea they pitched about, oh, maybe they should get married? Maybe, Tyrion does his fucking job and advises the queen, like, the Northerners here, they do not respect you, and there are no other eligible bachelors in the Seven Kingdoms, basically, because they all fucking are shit by now. They all died, but you could unite the kingdom and gain increased legitimacy by marrying this man. And she's like, I will not marry again for bleh, and say, a nice speech. And then when he rides the dragon, it's like, holy shit, he rode the dragon.
Well, and especially because, the dragon are her children. And so it's like the whole thing of, like, if you're trying to hook up with a girl and you don't want her dog barking at you, her dog barks at you, she's not going to like you anymore. But then all of a sudden the dog, oh my God, he doesn't like anyone. And it's like, oh my God, my dog likes you. It would make perfect sense.
Exactly. So that's what should have happened. Chicka chicka. Let's move out of that section. But yeah, they do fly. It's a scene, and they fuck in front of waterfalls. Like basically, that's it, right? And they have some of the dialogue is really like in this episode in general. The only thing I thought I had after like that was fine, but some of the dialogue was kind of teen drama ish. It's something like, oh, you look cold, oh, warm your queen up or whatever.
But even like this idea, I mean, I know it's not like she wants to go through with it, but even just the thought of her being like, we could just stay here forever and no one would know. It's like, no, you've
No, we
devoted your
couldn't.
whole life. Like,
Also, we couldn't because there would literally be zombies here. How about this, Jim? Oh, let's go reconnaissance. We have the fastest things in the
yeah,
world, as proven last season.
very true.
Let's fly north and have a look. And they do that, and then they, I don't know, they can still end fucked by a waterfall, but like still, they could have some sort of purpose to it. I guess maybe they're looking for food or something, and then the dragons are kind of looking at them like weird
Well,
after.
that's what I was gonna ask. Yeah, what's your read on the look the dragon gives them?
I don't know, but that's the best part of the scene is just
Yeah,
the last shot of that dragon just staring at him. It's Drogon, right? Staring, I think
I
so.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense if it was the other dragon because it's like now I found my rider, but I feel like it's more. I don't know. Maybe it's just hungry. Like
Yeah.
they. I'm not sure. How do you read it?
It's hard to say because it seems foreboding, but I don't know if they want it to feel that way. I
Hmm.
don't know. I guess maybe it's just they're going for a bizarre joke.
Yeah, and in the chat, a good theory about the weird dragon scene. The reason the Targaryens had incest babies is because it brings them closer to their dragons. I don't remember that being a thing, but maybe just it was definitely a thing that you got to keep the Targaryen blood strong and that. And that was okay. So they're saying it was a nod to the dragons knowing they're related, which yeah,
Uh,
I guess that makes sense.
yeah.
And that so on.
Well, because remember, there was always the theory, and maybe this goes back more towards the books, but I've seen it like spoke about online of like the three dragon riders and how it was supposed
Yeah.
to be a big deal, and people thought maybe Tyrion would be one because he has that scene earlier. I forget if it's season 6, maybe it must be season 6 or maybe season 7, where he kind of touches the dragon, or even when he lets them out and they
Yeah.
kind of react to him a certain way. But who knows? It just
And
ends up.
he always read books about dragons, and there is a theory that he has Targaryen blood. But like, there's a theory that everyone has Targaryen blood. But I'll say the one with Tyrion is one of the better ones. So you know that was always a possibility. Then one of the dragons became a zombie dragon, so that one's claimed. So we get into a forge next. Some quick reunions. First, basically the Hound and Arya. And he gets to go like the Godfather who stopped showing up. It's like, oh, you grew up right proper, young lass, and
Yeah.
she's like, okay, I won't murder you or whatever. That's basically it. People are saying like, oh, the Hound's on her list. She's gonna kill him. I'm like, no, that's
No.
obviously not gonna happen.
Yeah, no, they don't they remember they had a, it was a buddy cop thing they had, and
Yeah.
there's that mutual respect, and in a way she did kill him by leaving him to die, but then since he survived, and yeah, I don't foresee anything there.
Yep. And then we get Gendry and Arya reunioning, and this is one of the parts that felt a bit like teen drama, where they're talking about like, oh, you're just like all the other rich girls. Like, you don't know any other rich girls. It's like very Gossip Girl, in my opinion.
Yeah, because now it's like, ooh, are they gonna get together? Oh, wow.
Oh. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I
Yeah,
kind of always like them together, so could be a thing. But still, the dialogue isn't the best I've ever heard.
oh, and then now the Glovers, Lord Glover wishes good fortune, even though he's will stand behind House Stark as we have for thousands of years.
Yes.
No, those pieces of shit. But
Yeah.
the thing, I mean, I guess this is like the people that live in Tornado Alley and they're like, get out of here, a tornado's coming. They're like, nope, I ain't leaving. It's my home. Like,
Yes.
again,
That's exactly what it is.
because I was gonna bring up the point of like the wall has fallen. Like we need to all get together. But I guess that is just the nature of people. Not everyone's gonna fall in line.
Yeah, we got us some spears. We're gonna do just fine. Like they don't get it. And Sansa and Jon get to fight about that a bit. I don't remember much from this scene, to be honest.
Yeah, because she's still kind of like, you're with this girl, you bent the knee, and he's
You're
just
in love with
saying,
her. Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, I guess he is trying to divert it from the love thing to be like, how are we supposed to beat the army of the dead? And he's bringing up all good points. It's very reminiscent of the Battle of the Bastards, where he's like, just tell me a reason on why I shouldn't be partnering with her, and like I've seen this army of the dead, and we need this army. And I'm trying to see, does she even respond? I think she just stares at him again.
Well, yeah. At the end, I think doesn't it end with her asking if if you bent the knee because you wanted to save the North or because you love her. And he just kind of looks at her, and that's the end.
I mean, but he could also just explain that, like, well, I mean, I guess he does kind of explain because it was that he loved her in this, like, kind of lazy way that they did it, but she also did prove herself by coming in and saving them,
Yeah.
swooping in by her dragons and helping them, and basically sacrificing one of her children to save them because of their boneheaded idea.
Yes. Look, her advisor is so goddamn stupid, and I was so goddamn stupid to agree to this plan that you never would have agreed to. I actually do believe Sansa might be the smartest person
Yeah,
in the room, because she would never have gone along with this plan of sending the king in the north of the
that's
wall.
true. Yeah, that's
Uh,
right.
but yeah, it's one of these scenes, and then we get a pretty good scene with our good friend Sam, who gets to have a fun reunion with the knight that he saved. That's so great. What a fun scene that we have here. Ser Jorah's all right. And yeah, I guess I get my comeuppance because I've always said, it never really mattered. I still say it doesn't really matter that the Tarleys got burned to a crisp, but I suppose they do. They do a good job of emphasizing that it was the way it was done rather than anything else, which is kind of the thing. That was kind of the thing all along. She burned the people who didn't agree right in front of them, and she could easily have spared the son. But then, anyway, Sam does a
Yeah.
great job in this scene.
Absolutely, yes. Sam is great in this scene. Yeah, I'm still kind of with you. I understand their like some of the argument, but also Daenerys makes perfect sense in her choices there because it is you have to show might. You're taking over someone else's army here, taking these people in, getting and it works. They all bend the knee after it happens. I
Yes.
understand it's brutal, but it's not. It's no different than maybe it's a little different, but it's Ned Stark that beheads a guy for leaving the watch, but because he was afraid of zombies that fucking murdered everyone around him. But
Yes.
we get why he did it, and it's similar to that. But yes, the way it plays out's great. The only thing I have if I could nitpick, and maybe this
Is it his
handled.
wobbly lip? Sorry to cut you off, but
No,
is it the wobble of the lip?
no, I love that. I think it's great.
Cool.
And maybe this is handled better in the books, but I feel like the brother was never, even when he goes home, the brother still kind of comes off as unsympathetic. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like there's a good relationship there. I only see a good relationship with Sam, with his sister and his mother. It
Yeah.
seemed like his brother was also a dick, but it's supposed to be like it's supposed to hit here that the fact that his brother died, like he's obviously still upset his father died, but
Mm-hmm.
they had their relationship, so it's not like he kind of can understand. But the brother is supposed to hit him harder because I don't know. I didn't see a difference in the relationship.
Yeah, they could have very easily done that because he was a dick. Maybe his name was literally Dickon.
Yeah.
He was just a joke. Like he was a joke character who didn't have any personality. If he'd had like one scene with Sam going like, "Hey, you know what? You're all right, kid.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to look out for the family name here. You do what you got to do at the Citadel or whatever." Or if he saw him getting the sword and then he was like, you know what? You take that sword. Which
Yeah.
he could have been a dick to him at the dinner when they were meeting because that was in front of the father, and then he catches him on the way out, and of course Sam thinks he's gonna run the alarm, but he's just like, you know what? You take that sword. You're Tarly to me forever, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like then this would be more impactful.
He still sells it though,
Yeah,
and I think that's
absolutely.
the most important thing. And also, like to your point about the Tarleys getting burnt up not being a big deal, this is kind of the best case scenario payoff. Like there's at least there's a good payoff here that happens. And I mean it also it's so flimsy on why like John wasn't all just immediately told the news when he got to Winterfell. It's because we have to get to this point
Yeah.
uh, for him to find out. Because Sam's like, "Have you told him yet?" And he's like, "You need to tell him. He trusts you." Doing his weird thing.
Well, yes, and also like so after this he rushes down and it's like he's in one of these movies where he's been transported into the 1800s because the carriage passes and he's like, whoa, like Sam does when he's just running down because he's so distraught he's not paying attention to what's happening. That's a very specific image I had when I saw this. But then he spots Bran, who is still fucking sitting there,
Yeah,
and he does indeed say, "No, you've got to do it." And he
he's
goes
waiting
down in the
for a friend.
crypt. Yep, he's skulking. And again, no one offers to wheel him away. He's just still there. And we go down into the crypts, and it's kind of a nice start because I guess, yeah, I was kind of like, wait, he didn't see Sam before this, but like he just arrived. It makes sense. He got 18,000 reunions to do. Him meeting Arya was more important. So they get to have this reunion in the crypts where Sam is actually like, I know I'm not supposed to be here. Of course, John doesn't give a shit. He's just super happy to see him until he
Yeah.
hears the news.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, this has been called out online, but the whole thing when Ned said, next time we speak, I'll tell you about your mother, and they are in front of Ned's statue here when he does get the news. I do wonder who built this statue, because Winterfell was like basically torn apart and ruled by other people for so long. Like, when did they have the time to make sure they built the Ned Stark statue? Because he kind of died in the thick of it. So was it like the Boltons were like, oh yes, we hate Stark, but we pay respects to them. Make sure we get a statue built in his name.
It's a fantastic question because the castle did kind of pass from, Theon had it for a bit, like immediately after, so they wouldn't have built it then. And then the Boltons take it over like forever, right? Or is there any other point there? So the Boltons have it. I guess it's a very new statue. He may as well be like dusting off the gravel that's still on there at this point.
I mean, but we do see it last season, I think, because like Arya's looking at it and she's like, it doesn't look like him or whatever. So yeah, maybe they did just build it as soon as they got it back, or maybe because I do know that Littlefinger sent his remains back to Catelyn Stark. So I guess to like make this post haste, and then they got taken over. But also luckily the Greyjoy, Theon or the Boltons weren't vicious enough to go and ransack their crypts because
It's true. But they're Starks. I don't think they bury gold and stuff down there. It's just like good hardy stone. That's all you need in the afterlife.
But I feel like someone like Ramsay Bolton would just kind of want to stick it to, like, part of when he's torturing Sansa, bring her down to the crypt, start smashing the statues up or whatever. Come on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So where does John land with this? I mean, Sam's like, oh, you're the protector of the realm and all of that. And we've always talked about, like, it doesn't really matter who's the real heir. Like, it only matters who has the power. And, I guess this will fuck with, the whole relationship thing. But, I mean, it's only an ant. Like, as far as royalty, they could still do the whole plan. It's not necessarily an issue. But I guess it's going to be an issue, or the fact that he's supposed to be, he has a better claim or whatever. I mean, he's a man. Women can't inherit, right, Jim? So who knows?
Yeah, it's just weird because I guess it feels like most people rebel against the idea of a Targaryen being back on the throne regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I don't know. Jon Snow, raised by a Stark, he has more respect, and then he just has this extra claim that he can throw behind it.
Yeah.
Then again, it's also weird. Like, it almost feels like a better, more like natural divide would just be the fact of, like, if they did fall in love and then Daenerys, like, they want them to get married, like, take out all this Targaryen stuff, but then Daenerys just doesn't want to marry him because she doesn't want to have to share the throne, or like it would just diminish her role as a queen because she has a king.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like there's a weirder dynamic there. But I don't know. I guess we'll see how it plays out. I guess the natural thing is that Jon doesn't really want it, so that's why it has to be forced upon him here.
Yep. And then the episode wraps up with we get to see Tormund and Beric Dondarrion and Dolorous Edd from the Night's Watch. They're all alive. Everyone's alive. Big surprise. Like, they were on the wall, I believe, when it fell down, and we were like, "Are they dead?" No, of course they're not dead. We know they're not dead, and they weren't dead. And the only person who's dead is like the zombie thing on the wall that starts burning. Then, and, I would have expected like the severed arms to start wriggling around as well. Why not? But it is a cool, scary kind of way to wrap it up without having to do a huge army.
Yeah, and we get the swirl symbol again that we've seen a bunch of times, and we saw it in the Dragonstone caves as well. What does it all mean?
This isn't Westworld. It means the dead are coming. Like, I don't think it means anything.
Yeah, exactly. And then Jaime, and I mean, what happened to Jaime? Why does Jaime not have gold Lannister hair anymore?
Because he's emo now.
Yeah, it's just because he's been through some shit.
Yes, that's what happens naturally. Have you never been through some shit, Jim?
Yeah.
No, but that was seriously my first thought. Like, there must be memes about emo Jaime already, right? Because when I just saw that, I was like, oh my god, it's emo Jamie. But yeah, I guess he colored it to hide his true identity so he could get to the north without being stopped. So he can.
Well, also, I don't feel like he's had it in a long time. Like it's not. I don't. But maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Even though I recently rewatched it, but I feel like they're just kind of like, fuck it, who cares?
What do you mean, the hair?
Yeah, the hair.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then he also gets to see Bran. Last fucking shot. Bran is still there all episode in the courtyard. He's doing like a marathon of Game of Thrones, just sitting still, staring blankly into space, much like you did from February up until recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like season 1 echoes. It rhymes. Oh, I pushed you out a window. But like Bran's not human anymore. He doesn't have emotions. It doesn't matter.
It's a great payoff. I feel like it's definitely the most memeable thing from the episode, like the stares. Everyone loves the stare, like him staring at everyone, and it is hilarious that he is just in the same spot. But I do feel like it's a great payoff, and even for goofing around about like the poetry, it rhymes. These are very different people from who they were at the end of season 1, episode 1. So it's a kick-ass cliffhanger to be like, fuck yeah. Like, although the bum out part is, I feel like then it's just going to be dumb. Like Bram's going to be weird, and it's not going to amount to much. But we'll see.
Yes. So, quick thoughts from the chat there that burning the Tarleys was a mistake, reminding Otha of Rob's mistakes that leads to his death. And another comment, I'd say the statue was built between his death and before Theon taking it over. So, they got that done right quick in that case, which I guess would make sense. And John is the most reluctant leader ever. LOL. So true. Like, if he obviously never wanted to be king, and he even says that, but like, yeah, well, whatever. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
And that's probably why he'll get it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Everyone else wants it.
So yes, final thing then. Have you like done a death vote thing or like a betting thing on who's gonna die and who isn't?
It's hard. I mean, because this show's obviously known for killing off characters, and now we're in the home stretch. Excuse me, feels like everyone could die. So I failed to like really even venture to guess. It feels like the obvious telegraph is that either Jon or Daenerys end up on the throne due to the sacrifice of the other, like vice versa, however it may work out. But I mean, everyone's on the chopping block.
Absolutely. So at work, we did have a sort of sweepstakes, and I did bet €2. So I'll go through my lives and deaths now at the start of the season.
Oh, nice. That's great.
I want to say I'm not married to these. In fact, I agonized over, like, I sat with the first one, Jon Snow, alive or dead. It took me like seriously half an hour. And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I just crossed in the rest, and then some I did change. But I'm definitely not married to it. In fact, I'm not happy with my choices. It's not what I want to happen. It was just my best guess to win the amount, and I'm still not happy with it. So, Jon Snow, I'll say the name, and then you say alive or dead just instinctually, and I'll say mine. Is that okay?
Okay.
Jon Snow.
Alive.
Yeah. Alive. Daenerys.
Dead.
Dead. Sansa.
Alive.
Alive. Arya.
I'm gonna go alive.
I have alive as well, and I wrote a note. Faceless though.
Yeah.
Bran.
Dead.
Dead.
Well, but in a way of like, I don't know. Yeah.
No, he's gonna travel back in time and be dead in the present, or who gives a shit?
Or he's the Night King or whatever that famous.
Fuck that. Yeah. Missandei.
Alive.
Dead. Grey Worm.
Dead.
Dead. Jorah Mormont.
Ooh. This is a tough one, kind of. I'm gonna say dead though.
I said dead as well. Tyrion Lannister. It's a tough one.
Alive.
I changed it though. I put dead, and then I was like, nah, I can't. Jaime Lannister.
Dead.
Cersei Lannister.
Dead,
of course. But hey, who am I to say?
Yeah.
The Mountain.
Oh, dead.
The Hound.
Alive.
Yeah. Varys.
Ooh, alive.
I said dead because I think that would be representative of us leaving the Game of Thrones,
Mm.
less conspiracy and stuff needed. And if Tyrion's alive, they don't. I mean, he could be the advisor, but
Yeah.
he could live. Tormund Giantsbane,
Alive.
I put dead, but
Mm.
I'm not married to that.
Yeah.
Melisandre, the Red Witch,
Dead. I mean, she said that she'd die, so I assume.
yes, dead, absolutely. So Brienne,
Ooh, well, I'm thinking alive because they're gonna be together. They've been teasing it the whole time. Her and what's his face there?
I mean, I put alive as well, but not for that reason, because I killed off all of Daenerys' other advisors. But then I killed off Daenerys as well. Bronn,
Dead.
I put alive. Because he's a fucking superhuman who can never die.
Yeah.
Theon Greyjoy,
Dead.
I put alive, actually.
You're
I think
probably right. I just kind of went just like first
Yeah.
thought, but you're
Yeah.
probably right.
I was like, nah, he's fitting to rule the Iron Islands, I think. Gilly,
She better be alive.
she's the most alive character ever. Samuel.
Oh, I feel like they would kill him. I feel like he's probably gonna be alive but dead because that would really hurt. I feel.
Yeah,
That'd
you're
really
right.
hurt.
I did put alive though, but and I think if you look at the odds online, he's the most likely to be alive. I think that might be why they kill him.
It would hurt. It would be a rough one. It'd be
It
like
would.
Hodor.
Yeah, just like Hodor. Davos,
Ooh. Dead.
I put alive. Though I kind of feel differently now, but whatever. I already handed this in. Podrick, final one.
Alive.
Alive, agreed. So there you have it, our bets. You let us know. Send us an email to showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com. Actually, you should wait until the next episode comes out. Send us your thoughts immediately on what happened in that one, showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com, and we'll include your feedback as we go through the season, because yes, we are aiming to do one episode per episode, just kind of talk it through. It is the last season, it deserves it, and despite our quibbles, I am very hyped.
No, I agree. I'm excited. I'm back in Game of Thrones mode. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, that's it. If for anything else, there's showswhatyouknow.com. We got all our shows on there. Please do check it out. You can watch my video. You can actually just type Game of Thrones into YouTube. It'll probably come up. It's the one that says we should kill Bronn. Or you just type kill Bronn, it'll come up. And then you can go there and yell at me and subscribe to my YouTube. Apart from that, I have nothing more to say except one thing, Jim.
Oh, what's that?
Winter is here.
You did it.